Next on the VOD request channel, I have a Diamond 1 Honor VOD from Herbo. In this game, I struggled with heal botting and wasting sleeps. 13%. There was a lot of defensive nades and ones on bubbled enemies. No good. In short, I would say this was below average performance for me, which is why I want to review it. That's great. Love these to review. Diamond 1 as well, we're almost pushing Masters, which is good to see. Additionally, I felt like if I didn't heal but my team got instantly wiped after round 1, I shifted my playstyle to focus on keeping people alive rather than looking for damage and healing. Was this adjustment bad, good, or poorly executed? In brackets, if you're not coached, then I still have advice you think would help. I would gladly accept it. Alright, well, we can take a look at that. I will try to remember to look at that. So we might not spend too much time on round 1, but then look at the adjustment afterwards. I'm still so maybe I'm wrong, but I think you can put pressure before the fight by using engineer and shooting the enemy. Yeah, exactly. There's definitely times in the pre-fight where you can look for damage because your whole team is healthy, right? And so you can look to gain an advantage that way. But nade is always going to be tricky to use when they also have a lot of resources available to them, specifically if you're coming up against a Zaya that's getting bubbles off, means you need to track bubbles a little better. And part of that is somewhat a barrier from Diamond to Masters, is learning how to adapt your usual gameplay to fit a specific scenario. But yeah, we'll get into this. Off the bat, I will say I think you are misplaying this if you're heal botting. I think with a Brig that will be able to frontline because there's no real dive threats to you, as long as you're controlling LOS of the Hanzo, there's plenty of opportunities for you to be able to look for damage. Nevertheless, we will just take a look. And yeah, I think off the bat, there's an instant swap anyway. So that's still pretty scary though with a Mercy. Arguably the scariest. Off the bat, their team comp tells me I want to sleep dart when I see Bastion use his abilities. I want to look to pressure out their Ana as much as I can because she's going to be sort of on her own when there's a Mercy. I want to look to cut LOS of whoever the Mercy is pocketing for the most part. I want to eliminate my threats and sort of focus on pocketing my team to win the tank trade / denying their Ana any peeking opportunities. And I want to be tracking Zaya's bubbles for nade opportunities. That's what their team comp says to me. There's no real big odds to sleep besides landing a really good sleep on a Sojourn ult. That's really all I can say. Better Mercies might look to battle Valkyrie if they see you use sleep as they're using it. For your team, I like Junker Queen nanos. I like Brig nanos for her to stay alive / build ultimate. I don't like Bob nanos, he gets melted. And I don't like Cass nanos, he doesn't get enough time to pull it off, even with the damage resistance. So I like JQ nanos and I like Brig nanos in this comp. I'm definitely playing nano off teammates put in bad positions and trying to turn it into a good play, or I'm doing it when I see big nade opportunities and I want my team to go aggressive. Off the bat, you get a little tripped out. Know what your rollout's going to be. I think a great one for Ana is being able to play here and just sort of shoot and sit here, shoot your team, look for damage on these angles, and then rotate through and play to here once they push up. If they push back, then you do as well, and you can play longer sightlines like this. For the most part, you are able to play pretty close to your team, or pretty close quarters because they don't have dive threats. You're not trying to maintain distance and control it well. Whereas you can focus more on making sure you're not holding the same sightlines as their quite high damage poke. So that's just something to notice right off the bat, but we'll watch this VOD a little bit. Because right now, you're having to decide between having LOS of your team or having LOS of them. and that's making it hard to look for damage and healing. So perhaps this is the key that we'll sort of look through as the VOD goes on, is about what positions you're putting yourself in where you have the ability to do both. As a general understanding of most supports, good positions have 1, cover, 2, rotation options, and 3, they have the ability to play aggressive. I'll just do aggro to save time. But these are the main 3 things that a good support position will have, and this applies for most heroes. There are some exceptions to this, such as Lifeweaver, who's in a current heal botting sort of meta playstyle. Mercy obviously positions slightly different to this. Brig also. But for the most part, it stays the same. I mean, cover applies to everyone. Rotation options refers to being able to rotate as the fight progresses, / being able to get out if you need to. And then this one is sort of the one that we might take a bigger look at today in terms of whether your positions are giving you the ability to look for damage and look for aggressive plays. Because as we all know, as supports, at some point, fights get to a turning point, and in that moment, you need to be able to make the decision, okay, is what I'm doing enough? Are we about to just close out this fight? Or we're going to lose this fight unless I go make a play, and you go make a play. So yeah, right now you're having to pick between the two, and it's actually also damaging you. So you're going to force resources onto yourself. You want to be doing the Brig a favor here. If she's going to be frontlining and not babysitting you, you don't want her to have to turn and heal you, ideally. You want to be doing your best to just rely on the passive, the support passive healing. I think dropping here is a mistake. I think you're getting a little too close so that they can walk on you. And I'd be looking to sleep this turret mode, but it's a little late. But I think it's because we drop, right? We get a little overwhelmed by being in the middle of everything. We're trying to keep people alive. Remember, healing people does the same thing as denying their source of incoming damage, which could have been sleeping that Bastion. Because we actually get a pick on the overextended Zaya. We're trading a little bit. Their Sojourn gets out. They get a big res though, so that's probably the fire one for them. And then the Brig gets wiped here. Okay. So yeah, but I hope that makes sense what I'm getting at to start off this VOD, because that's probably what I'm going to look at for the rest of this VOD, is what sort of positions we're putting ourselves in. And I hate that the answer so often is positioning, but it is so much of this game. It's unreal. Yeah, I don't mind that. It forces her next bubble out. So I don't hate that nade. Monkey is... I don't know why he swapped to Monkey to begin with, but... it's interesting. He ends up feeding a little bit, I'm not sure why. Now you have a Kiriko. I would be sort of tweaking my playstyle to be a little more on the healing side than damaging side, because she does a better job, I think, to Ana of going aggressive. If you know anything about Awkward's sort of, I think it's 4 steps or something like that, to playing Kiriko and constantly looking for damage. Ana plays the same, but I think Kiriko does it better. So if you can shelf a lot of the healing duties in this team comp, then that'll be enabling your team. Likewise, if you see that she's bad and you need to do the carrying, then obviously make the adjustment to do so. But theoretically, I mean, this is the way to do it. Based off your team comps, I think the same thing. I think Nano Monkey, though, is by far the best option here. I like that we're sticking to cover a bit. I think this is good. We're just a bit indecisive, right? You can see it in this moment right here. You're like, okay, I need to make sure the Cass is okay. The Monkey needs my help though. But I should say with the Cass, I'll rotate around this way. But I just think you can't be responsible for everyone on the team, so just do what you want to do. And if they're smart, they'll play around that. If not, you know, they probably had it coming anyway. I think you've been holding on to Nano a long time here. I would either look to Nano this cast to let him just roll over this Zaya and then move on to point, or I'd be positioning next to my monkey, ready to Nano him and still helping this cast. One of the two. At the moment, we're sort of stuck in no man's land. I like this. I think we're looking for nade, but realize we don't have it, so we throw sleep instead. I think is what happens. Almost. We nano him, he gets rolled anyway, which I think is likely to happen. This is a good nano. I mean, a good, sorry, anti, but the monkey could use nano right then. It doesn't get punished for it, so no harm, no foul. And then we just clean up. So that was a really good nade, actually. I like that. I get that it's in the pre-stage. We're just throwing out abilities because we won't need them in the next 12 seconds, but it'd be interesting to see if we could actually use them in the next 12 seconds. Rushed the nade a little bit and it didn't even make it. Throw another sleep out, but I don't even know if that was on target. Not trying to bag on your accuracy or anything, just... Oh yeah. Yeah, that was a pretty good sleep attempt. But also, a thing to remember with both cooldowns, even if these land, what do? Virtually nothing, right? They're in the middle of their team, they have all the resources, all the support in the world, your team can't go in there. Be careful with this, because more often than not, hitting a big nade like that, I mean, a nade is sort of different because that could be big with follow-up, but hitting a sleep dart like that might be enough to trigger really dumb teammates to just go in and feed. Having been there myself as an Ana player, I can tell you that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes that can actually do more harm than nothing. So just be careful of that. I was worried about this at the start of the fight, and I think I'm hesitant to comment on it because this is a new map, still relatively new map, and I think it's up for... There's still a bit of debate on, I guess, how to play around them, but I think you should be further up. I think this is the correct position if they were playing a dive. Like I mentioned earlier, you have to play your distance more, understand what angles they can get to you from, and really control the space and give yourself a really safe position. But I think when they're playing something that doesn't have speed and B doesn't have mobility, I mean like Lucio speed of like if this comp has speed, then you still have to play as if it is a dive because they can get on top of you quickly. But because it doesn't, I think you can play up closer where your Kiriko is, and it'll make it easier to then throw a nade against this wall, throw a nade against this wall, right? Just peek around this edge and then find your monkey. Things like this. So I think playing from back here is better. Even if you wanted to, you could rotate out back after you'd won that last fight and then position in here, right? And it might even make it a little bit easier. But I just think that these nades that you're trying to hit, these opportunities to look for damage, it's really hard to come by. And again, if we're talking about that sort of 3 criteria that I put out at the start of the VOD in terms of cover, rotation options, and ability to go aggressive, you have the first 2 down pat, and they're the safe 2. But the third one is about add damage and healing that we're like interested in investigating, and I think it's making it quite difficult to do that. And that's a good ass nade. That was really good, but it was incredibly difficult to hit, and the monkey still can't actually clean it up. That's crazy. Okay, he does now. But you see it's quite difficult, and it's not guaranteed to follow up. Because you couldn't then hit the shot yourself, right? I'd be rotating up top with your crew. You can clear out that high ground and then sit there for a bit because you good sight lines. You can manipulate the cover up there pretty well. Unlucky. This is a bit... Are we gonna die? We're in a really bad spot right now. We need to get out. I'm not sure if you're grouped with this Cass or what your obsession is with nanoing him. Whether it's just he was critical, but... I still think nanoing tank is a really good option. Because they'll do their job a lot better. And we're just going to get walked on. And I think... Were you worried about contesting earlier? Is that what it was? Because it's never your job. It's never your job. You either... Someone else either contests, or you just didn't do enough to win that round, basically. If you want to play someone to contest, play someone... If you want to play support that contests, play more of a like a BAP or a Kiriko or a Lucio or a Moira, someone that can stall or someone that can actually have point presence. Ana doesn't have that at all. BAP doesn't even really have that, but he's better, slightly. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I think that was the key to that first round at least, is sort of the positions you were putting yourself in were making you constantly have to pick between the two and make rotations to do the other one. We couldn't do them from the same place. We were either healing and then rotating to shoot, and it's that rotating in between, which is actually when you should be shooting, and so you're missing that time, and then it feels like you're shooting late, and then you're out of sync, and so I think that this is the key. Now, good cover, good rotation options. Still a bit passive, like the angle before. So I'll just double check as well. What was your adaptation? Focus on keeping people alive rather than looking for damage. It's a bad call. Doomfist is really self-sufficient, I think. I don't think it's a good call. That being said, it doesn't mean automatically you lose, so we'll see. Unfortunate with the Doom, he's just going in and feeding at that point. But then again, your DPS didn't really walk on the Tsar while he was absorbing pressure. Yeah, Ash just found a nice angle. We can push up on the high ground to our right after we cap this. Jeez, that was close. Yeah, and this is a little bit of reactive positioning we're doing right now, right? In this time that we took to rotate up to here, our Brig has become critical and our Doom has gone in and is purple and is half health. We needed to already be up here so that we could have been finding value in this moment we just took to rotate. So I think, yeah, we get punished as well. So I think that that was a little bit of just proactive positioning misplay in terms of going on to point and then not immediately moving off it. Again, I don't think you need to cap, but if your team just refuses to, I get it. Sometimes you have to in ranked, but then immediately make the adjustment, go find your position. Don't stall out on point. Right now I haven't seen a lot of sleep darts onto the Bastion or like really any sleep dart opportunities present themselves. I've seen some good nades, but not really. Pardon me. They haven't been necessarily because you have seen an opportunity for them. I think they are just good nade spots. Good nade, like, I don't want to say timing because that's what I'm saying you don't have. I'm not saying you're throwing it because you've seen bubble or you've seen abilities or you've seen someone. I think you're just throwing them and you're finding people, that's good. It's getting value, but we're more concerned with the why and the what we're doing rather than the how we did it and how it went. Little micro adjustment. Don't ever try and hit the floor or hit people with nades, whether they're aggressive or defensive. Splash them off ceilings, splash them off walls, splash them off anything. The only time you nade the floor is for yourself. The only time you nade people is if they're slept. Because if you splash that on the wall next to the Sigma, it doesn't get blocked by the Zaya, doesn't get blocked by the staircase. It actually hits. If you splash off the ceiling, it might actually hit the Zaya and everyone else as well. There's always more value to be found off splashing nades off surfaces, except the floor. I will say good accuracy for these things, I think. A little bit rushed there. She was always going to bubble herself when she woke up, so just keep that in mind. I'd also be playing her distance. She's really high charge. She could just turn and walk on you right now, if considering her team is leaving you behind. I'm surprised she doesn't. And I think this is a decent position this far back at being able to shoot both people, but I think it's quite difficult to land your cooldowns. And again, when they don't have dive, we need to abuse that, and we can really play close and we can play tight corners. Again, or not again, but just something to note here, how out in the open you are as you take shots on this bastion. We're not exactly close to cover. Could be in tight like this, really holding this corner. Just something to note. Now rotate. Find your spot. Go find your spot. Stop sitting on point. I'll give you a hint. Know your spot. Number one, know the spot you want to go to. Right now, you want to heal bot, right? There's nowhere really, like, I'm not saying heal botting is a good thing to do. I'm just saying right now you don't have a real position you can take which will allow you to damage the people where they currently are. You might be able to get some shots in as they come in, but that's it. You're not about to sit here and look for your own shots. You're not about to press up as far as here and look for damage. If they come here, you can shoot them. God, I'm getting so yawny, pardon me. So perhaps this is the spot, right? This is the spot. You control LOS, you just get to sit here, you can shoot people, and you control LOS to that flank. You can still see everyone, shoot other people as they come in. As they start to walk in, as your team starts to kite, you kite back to here or here, somewhere here, like either using this door as cover and really committing to anyone pushing you. Or if no one's pushing you, you can keep rotating all the way back here and then hold this bit of cover. Why? Because it's cutting LOS to people on this side of the map. It's keeping LOS to point, which is your teammates and enemies over here, and it's cutting LOS to anyone trying to come up here and flank. But you can still see them and you can still hear them. I'll put it this way, you would not be here if your team was not playing here. Never base your positioning based off your team. You can adapt it to your team, but it shouldn't be the sole reason you're here. There is no cover, this doesn't have good rotation options, and you can't see the enemy. This does none of the three that we were talking about. Just to be brutally honest in that moment, and this moment that we're still in right now, because it's still equally bad. And you almost got headshot by the Hanzo. I'd be nanoing the Brig, I think. I would have nanoed the Brig earlier. Or in this moment, I would have nanoed the Brig, I think. So they can hold this space. One, because nanoing Flux doesn't do a heap. It does a bit, but it doesn't do a heap. And they have probably 2 bubbles, plus lamp. to survive off. And 2, your brig can probably charge a rally off a nano, to be honest. She's allowed a free swing on this Tsar. If you can pocket her, then she'll real build nano. Unless this Mercy gets res. I think you're chilling. You are scoped in for a long time here. Wow, that was in 2 times. Okay, whenever you're doing this, make sure you don't have LOS to the enemy. You are scoped in for so long. You are such an easy target to hit when you scope. Because you just stand like you have limited movement speed, your head doesn't really move in relation to your body. It makes it very easy. What did we just try and sleep? Through nade. Try to sleep. Yeah, again, these types of cooldowns are relying on the enemy being bad. We need to start developing reasons behind having our stuff here. And then you talked about your sleep dart accuracy being bad. You're throwing them out, like, trying to hit these crazy sleeps. This is good. Keep the brig up, keep the brig up. Yeah. Recognize who is in danger. That's who the healing needs to go on to. Not only that, she's really close to rally, and that's going to win this fight. You need to keep her up. The grav is where they're about to direct all of their damage. He's full, he's fine. He'll get to cover if he needs it. But the brig is in real danger. And we just need to die now. Because it's at 99 and we're not going to get out, I don't think. Oh, Sigma's going to help us. Okay, never mind. But that's good, we got out. Didn't stall out. That pole is slept as. Again, just sort of sleeping for the sake of sleeping. It's I think it's an ML7 thing that he says I'm not going to need it in the next 10 seconds. I think it's a bad habit to develop. You need to understand why you don't need it in the next 10 seconds, or understand better that you won't. Because I think right now better off that if you're going to do a sort of like Hail Mary sleep, it better served it's on a Sojourn that might be about to ult than a Zayed whose bubbles we haven't tracked. Where'd that nade go? I thought for sure that BAP was going to get antied. Wow, I think somehow the Zaya body blocked that with a bubble. I don't really know how. Because your Sig didn't even get that. That's a little weird. Anyway. This is cool. You clean up. So I don't hate the adjustment. It is working. But it could be a lot cleaner, is what I'm going to get at. And you still need to put yourself... besides those moments where it's like you need to be pocketing someone when you're hard scoping in for so long, whether it was that Sig before, it was the Brig and the Grav, things like that, that's when you can cut LOS of their team entirely. But you still need to be in positions where you can quickly make that adjustment if you need to. Because it's that time in between where you're probably saying, like, anytime I look to damage, they're falling critical or whatever. It could be that you could have gotten 2 shots in for damage in the time you spent rotating to go do the damage. And then, so you're getting yourself out of sync and you're spending too much time on one thing rather than being able to quickly swap between the two of them. How long is this round? So is this like 100-0 on one side? We might watch the initial. I'd like to see you play closer. I really would. I'd like to see you rotate down here. So much easier to hit nades right now. If there is no threat to you being closer, which there is a slight higher threat with the Genji, but also you're safer next to your Brig, right? Than all the way back here on your own. And you can do you can do what your Cass is sort of doing, which is quickly swing around here and splash a nade off this wall. And that'll get heaps of value. You know, the Xayah only has 2 bubbles, right? So we just keep hitting 4-man antis, right? Obviously. And it's hard. Anytime you're trying to do your job and heal, you're having to peek them and shoot, right? Whereas if we had swung with the team fight a little more and played where our Brig sort of is, we could control LOS of them while still seeing our team. Ironically, now it's gotten to this stage, I want to see you still here and like sort of pressed up against this wall. Why? Because I want good rotation options and I want the ability to quickly go make a play if it comes to it. You lost your Xayah, so the fight's pretty much done. You just need to try and get your Brig out. Better sleeps on the Bastion so far. I like this adjustment if we've made one. He's entered turret form at most 3 times and you've slept 2 of them, but I think only 2 times and you've slept them both. Thumbed up Nano. Yeah, it's a little rushed. You had Nano, you felt like using it. God, I've gotten terribly horny. I think it was a little rushed. If your DPS are dead, you're really fighting an uphill battle. This is something you do if it's 99 or like last fight territory. At the moment, you're only down 20%. You can just chill for a bit. Where was that nade? A little rushed again. You tried to hit the Xayah. Let's break that habit. Let's look to splash nades off walls and ceilings only. Genuinely spend the next games like actively trying to not hit them on the ground unless it's like a clear as day nade opportunity, like maybe Ryan shield broke and they're all clumped up and you can just throw it at his feet, then sure. But besides that, really try and throw them and splash them off things. It makes a world of difference. And it becomes second nature once you learn how to do it. It's just about breaking the bad habit to begin with. You're in a world of hurt right now trying to keep everyone alive. That's probably where I would have used a defensive nade, to be honest. That Xayah probably needed it for the pocket. Also, just doing this, a lot easier to hit your shots and sort of just not have to move and 80 strafe while you're shooting and stuff. It's just to elongate the angle a little bit. Use this cover to cut LOS of the Bastion. Xayah's not going to try and right click you from there. And then you can just heal everyone up. Just really play your angle. Use the box, maybe. And just sit here and scope in. No one can really get on top of you and hurt you. There's 1 minute left though, so I'm assuming this is 100 to 0. So I might just leave it there. Because I think there's plenty of evidence to support what we're trying to talk about. But yeah, really look for that criteria and look for those positions. You can self-evaluate that for sure, self-odd review. So look for that. Look for your nades to splash off. Look for your sleeps. Like, think about it. Like, hold tab and actively look and think, what is sleep going to be really good at denying? Because that's what it is. It's a denial tool. Whether it's denying their engagement onto you and it's used selfishly to survive against a Genji or a Winston or whatever, that's what it's denying. If it's a poke comp, what cooldowns can it deny? Can it deny Bastion form? Can it deny a window or a Baptiste that's constantly off angling? Can you punish someone for being really aggressive all the time and just dedicate sleep to that one person? Just start to develop reasons behind your CD usage, because that'll make it a lot more calculated and you'll find a lot more value off of it. But those are the two things. The main one, though, being the positioning, because that'll directly correlate to your healing and damage ratio, and hopefully that'll make it easier to do. Because I think it's those little moments, like I said, that you're making these rotations that's costing you time to do damage, and then you are damaging when you should be healing, and it's leading to people dying or people being uncritical, etc., etc. So yeah, look out for those things. Message me if you have any positions you're unsure about, if you want more of them, if you take one in a match and you just want to send a screenshot and say like, hey, is this what I should be doing? Is this what you're sort of getting at? And I'll say like really easily yes or no, or like explain it a little bit. More than happy to do that. Otherwise, keep climbing. Hopefully you can hit masters soon, and all the best with the games.